When you choose silence and stop trying to reach out, it sends a message that no words ever could. It's in this quiet that clarity begins to emerge. For a man, your silence can feel like a spotlight on his own behavior, his choices, and his role in the connection. You see, when you're always reaching out, it creates a rhythm, a sense of expectation. He comes to expect your presence, your texts, your calls. But when you stop, it's as if the music suddenly halts and he's left standing there, wondering why. At first, he might brush it off, thinking she's busy or she'll reach out later. But as hours turn to days, that silence grows louder. It starts to echo in his mind, making him question the things he might have taken for granted. It's in that stillness that he realizes just how much space you held in his life. He begins to notice the absence of your good morning text or the comfort of knowing you'd always check in on him. And here's the truth. Men may not always articulate their feelings, but they feel the impact of your absence deeply. Your silence forces him into a space of reflection, even if he's not ready to admit it to himself. He might start asking, did I do something wrong? Why isn't she reaching out? Is she moving on? These questions become a loop in his mind, stirring emotions he may have ignored. What's fascinating is how silence allows you to speak volumes without saying a word. It creates an opportunity for him to step back and truly see the dynamic of your relationship. Was he contributing equally? Was he showing up the way you deserved? Your silence becomes a mirror reflecting his own actions. In this process, something shifts. He begins to realize that the connection wasn't as one-sided as he might have thought. It wasn't just you reaching out. It was you showing care, consistency, and effort. And now that it's missing, he's left to grapple with the void. Silence, as passive as it may seem, is actually a powerful tool for resetting the balance and redefining the value of your presence. So, don't underestimate the power of pulling back. It's not about being manipulative or playing games. It's about creating space for clarity and understanding. Silence, when used with intention, can speak louder than any words ever could. Let that quietness work for you, allowing him to feel and reflect on what's truly important. When you stop reaching out to him, you shift the energy between you. And he feels it immediately. You see, relationships, even in their early stages, operate on an unspoken balance. When one person is constantly giving, calling, texting, or initiating, the other often falls into a position of receiving. But when you stop, that dynamic changes. Suddenly, this change forces him to confront his own role in the relationship. It's easy to take someone for granted when they're always there, always reaching out, always making things easy. But when that consistency disappears, it creates a void he can't ignore. That void makes him question how much he's been contributing, if at all. It's not about punishment, it's about awareness. Your silence brings to light something he may not have realized. Relationships require mutual effort. Now, here's the key. It's in this space of awareness that he starts to feel the need to act. He begins to evaluate the connection from a different perspective. Without your consistent presence, he has to decide whether to step up or let go. And this decision is entirely his. That's the beauty of stepping back. It gives him the opportunity to show you who he truly is without any pressure or expectation. And he might start with small gestures, a message here, a call there, testing the waters to see if you're still open to communication. Or he might take longer to realize what's happening, but make no mistake, the shift in energy is felt. It's human nature to notice when something familiar is no longer there. He'll recognize the absence of your effort, start to understand the value you brought to his life. But remember, this process isn't just about him, it's about you too. When you stop reaching out, you give yourself the chance to step back and observe. You can see clearly whether he's willing to meet you halfway or if he was content with you doing all the work. His response or lack thereof speaks volumes about his intentions and investment in the connection. So by stepping back, you're not only giving him a chance to rise to the occasion, but you're also empowering yourself. You're allowing the natural balance of effort and respect to either restore itself or reveal the truth. And in that truth, you'll find the clarity you need to move forward, either with or without him. When you stop trying to contact him, something powerful happens. You shift the focus away from chasing him to focusing on yourself. Often in relationships, especially when we're emotionally invested, we put so much energy into trying to make things work, trying to stay connected and trying to meet the needs of the other person. We think that if we just keep giving, they'll eventually reciprocate and the relationship will flourish. But here's the truth. Constant effort without a balanced return can lead to burnout. And it leaves us feeling unfulfilled, unappreciated, and emotionally drained. By stopping the pursuit, you make room for self-reflection and self-care. This space allows you to regain your sense of self. Think about it. How often have you neglected your own dreams, passions, and personal growth while chasing someone else's attention? When you stop trying to contact him, you remind yourself of the importance of your own life, your own goals, and your own happiness. This shift isn't just beneficial for you, it's an act of self-respect. You show yourself that your worth isn't dependent on his validation. You're a whole person on your own, and you deserve to be valued for who you are, not just how much you can give. In this space, you regain perspective. When you're constantly in contact, it's easy to lose sight of your needs because you're so focused on his reactions. But when you take a step back, you start seeing things from a healthier distance. You begin to evaluate the connection from a place of clarity. Is this person truly adding value to your life? Or have you been over-investing in something that's not serving you? Additionally, when you focus on yourself, you attract better energy. You're no longer in a position where you're hoping for his attention or approval. Instead, you're engaging in activities that fill you up, whether it's pursuing your career, spending time with friends, picking up a new hobby, or simply taking time to relax and enjoy life. This independence and self-sufficiency become magnetic. You'll notice that your confidence grows, your energy shifts, and you're no longer in a state of neediness. Instead, you become someone who is whole on their own, and that's an attractive quality. Furthermore, when you stop reaching out, you allow him the space to miss you. Absence does make the heart grow fonder, and in that absence, he's left to reflect on what he's missing. The power of no contact is not about playing games. It's about creating a moment of reflection and opportunity for growth for both of you. It gives him time to appreciate your value and the connection you shared without the pressure of constant communication. In the end, the most important thing is that by stepping back, you make room for the right kind of connection, one based on mutual effort, respect, and genuine care. If he truly values you, he will recognize what's been lost and come forward to restore the balance. If not, you've already taken the crucial step of focusing on yourself and learning to value your own worth. The lesson is clear. The moment you stop chasing, you give yourself the freedom to live and grow in ways that may surprise you. When we stop trying to contact him, you also open up the space to create emotional independence. Often when we're constantly reaching out to someone, we become emotionally reliant on their responses, their attention, and their validation. We start to hinge our happiness on how they feel about us or how often they respond to our messages. This emotional dependency is a trap, and it keeps us in a cycle of seeking external validation to feel good about ourselves. But when you stop reaching out, you break free from that cycle. You begin to realize that your emotional state should not be tethered to someone else's actions or lack thereof. Your peace and joy should come from within, not from how someone else interacts with you. This emotional independence is not just liberating, it's empowering. It's a recognition that your worth is not tied to their approval or attention. Instead, you get to decide your own happiness. You get to set your own emotional standards and refuse to let anyone, including him, dictate how you feel about yourself. In this space of emotional independence, you also gain the clarity to better understand what you truly want and need in a relationship. When you're constantly pursuing someone, you can lose sight of your own desires and values because you're too focused on meeting theirs. But when you step back, you're able to evaluate what you truly want in a partner. What qualities do you value? What behaviors are non-negotiable? How do you want to be treated? This shift in perspective helps you align yourself with someone who can truly meet your needs, rather than chasing after someone who may not be offering what you truly deserve. This newfound emotional independence also frees you from the fear of rejection. So many times we hesitate to stop contacting someone because we're afraid of what they might think or that they might forget us. But here's the truth. Rejection is not a reflection of your worth. It's simply a sign that this person may not be the right fit for you. And when you stop chasing them, you stop worrying about rejection because you realize that your value doesn't change based on their response. You begin to accept that in relationships, not everything is within your control. But what you can control is how you show up for yourself. As you grow emotionally independent, you also gain a deeper understanding of your own needs and boundaries. You start to respect your own emotional space and protect it from any negativity. When you constantly reach out, you can sometimes open yourself up to emotional manipulation, or you might start compromising on your boundaries just to gain attention. But by taking a step back, you reinforce your boundaries and protect your peace. You stop letting anyone take your emotional energy without giving anything back. In the end, emotional independence allows you to maintain your sense of self no matter the dynamics of the relationship. It's about building a strong foundation within yourself, one that doesn't crumble when someone else doesn't give you the attention you want. And it's in this space of knowing your worth and standing firm in your emotional boundaries so remember, when you stop trying to contact him, you're not just creating space for him to miss you, you're creating space for you to thrive on your own, emotionally strong and independent. When you stop trying to contact him, the emotional shift that happens within you can be incredibly profound. The reason this shift is so impactful is because it forces you to reevaluate your relationship with yourself. So often, we place our emotional happiness and fulfillment in the hands of others, believing that someone else's attention, approval, or affection will complete us. But when you stop reaching out, you are left to confront the most important relationship in your life, the one you have with yourself. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that if you don't reach out, or if you stop pursuing someone, you're somehow losing or giving up. But this couldn't be further from the truth. What you're actually doing is gaining control over your emotional world. Instead of constantly seeking validation from someone outside of you, you begin to turn inward. You begin to recognize that your worth doesn't come from someone else's opinion or their interaction with you. It comes from how you see and treat yourself. This process of emotional self-reliance is a game changer. It allows you to stop waiting for someone to text back, call, or show interest, because you're no longer emotionally dependent on that external factor to feel good about yourself. You learn to enjoy your own company, to appreciate your own presence, and to nurture your own emotional health. In doing so, you regain a sense of freedom that many people don't experience in relationships because they've become so emotionally tied to someone else's behavior. Another thing that happens when you stop contacting him is that you begin to let go of the fantasy you may have created about what could be. It's easy to get caught up in the what-ifs of a relationship. You imagine a future that's tied to this person, thinking that everything will fall into place if only they would return your messages or show more interest. But when you stop reaching out, you give yourself the gift of clarity. You stop waiting around for someone to come around to your way of thinking. Instead, you accept the present moment for what it is, and in doing so, you start to see things more clearly, without the haze of your hopes, dreams, or desires clouding your judgment. What you'll notice is that when you start focusing on yourself and stop contacting him, there's a natural reshifting of your priorities. Instead of spending hours wondering about his feelings or crafting the perfect text to send, your energy starts flowing back into your own life. You begin rediscovering things that bring you joy, peace, and fulfillment outside of this relationship. You might pick up old hobbies, rekindle friendships, or find new passions. This is the beauty of emotional independence. It allows you to live a life where you are the center of your own world and no one's absence can dictate your happiness. This process also helps you stop overcommitting emotionally. It's easy to get wrapped up in someone else's life, and before you know it, you've invested so much of your time and energy into their world that you forget about your own. But when you stop trying to contact him, you take that emotional energy and direct it back into yourself. You begin to heal old wounds, develop new skills, and focus on your personal growth. It's like turning the spotlight back onto your own life and watching it shine brighter and brighter as you rediscover your strength. At the end of the day, when you stop contacting him, you stop waiting for something that may never come, and you start living your life for yourself. And in doing so, you create space for growth, transformation, and emotional freedom. This shift is powerful because it's not about what he's doing or whether he misses you. It's about what you are doing to empower yourself and how you can begin living the life that is truly yours. It's the first step toward taking back your emotional power, and it's a journey worth taking. When you stop trying to contact him, something powerful happens. You begin to notice your emotional triggers. These triggers are often the things that drive us to seek validation or attention from others, especially in relationships. It could be the fear of abandonment, the need for approval, or even just the loneliness that creeps in when we're not getting the attention we crave. When we feel like we're being ignored, it can evoke a sense of insecurity or anxiety, which pushes us to reach out, to initiate contact, to get that reassurance we think we need. But by stopping, you give yourself the space to examine these emotional triggers. The beauty of stepping back and not reaching out is that it allows you to observe the root of your own emotions. You start to realize that these emotional reactions are not the truth of who you are. They are simply patterns based on past experiences or past hurts that are seeking resolution in the present. In fact, many of the feelings we experience in the heat of wanting someone's attention have less to do with the person we're waiting for and more to do with how we've learned to cope with our own emotions over time. You may begin to recognize that these triggers are opportunities to heal parts of yourself that you may have neglected or ignored. Stopping contact doesn't mean you're avoiding your feelings. It means you are facing them. You're learning to sit with the discomfort instead of running from it. And in doing so, you begin to develop emotional resilience. The urge to reach out, to send that message, or to make contact begins to lose its power over you. Instead of immediately reacting, you give yourself the freedom to pause and you begin to realize that you don't need someone else to soothe your emotions or make you feel whole. You are more than capable of handling your own emotional landscape. This is not about becoming emotionally detached or shutting down. It's about gaining emotional maturity and control. The more you allow yourself the space to process your emotions without seeking external validation, the more emotionally stable and grounded you become. When you can sit with your own feelings without needing anyone else's input, you start to reclaim the emotional authority, and over time, this emotional independence becomes a powerful tool in your life because you begin to realize that you don't need anyone to dictate your worth, happiness, or peace of mind. This process is deeply empowering. It's an act of self-love to recognize that your emotional health is in your own hands. It's not the job of the man you're trying to contact to fix your insecurities or soothe your fears. It's your job. And when you stop reaching out, you give yourself the gift of introspection. You begin to notice patterns that no longer serve you. Stopping contact allows you to break free from these habits and start creating new, healthier patterns of emotional self-sufficiency. As you become more in tune with your emotions and more secure in your ability to handle them, you stop seeing rejection or lack of contact as something that diminishes you. Instead, you see it as an opportunity to build up your own emotional strength. Every time you resist the urge to reach out, you're not only strengthening your resolve, but you're also reinforcing your belief that your value is not determined by someone else's response. You start to recognize that the true power lies in your ability to stand firm in your own worth, regardless of how others behave. So when you stop trying to contact him, you start to build emotional resilience. You start facing your triggers, healing your wounds, and learning to manage your emotions in a way that empowers you. And in doing so, you become stronger, more independent, and better equipped to handle any situation that comes your way. The more you practice this emotional self-control, the more peace and confidence you will experience, knowing that your happiness and stability are within your own control. When you stop trying to contact him, you start to create a space for him to miss you, a space that doesn't just require your absence, but your emotional absence as well. The natural instinct for most of us when we feel rejected or overlooked is to chase after the person, to keep knocking at the door, hoping they'll let us in. But here's the thing. This constant pursuit doesn't leave room for them to see the value in what they have in you. When we're always available, when we're always present, we don't allow the person to truly recognize what they might be losing. We never give them the chance to experience the absence of us. And as a result, they often don't realize how important we are until we step. When you stop trying to contact him, you start to put your own emotional needs first. You're no longer giving all your energy to someone who isn't reciprocating it in the way you deserve. The truth is, by constantly reaching out, you might be ignoring your own needs. You're ignoring the fact that you deserve to feel valued, appreciated, and loved, not just by him, but by yourself. Stopping contact forces you to redirect that energy back into yourself, into your own healing and growth, And when you do that, you start to become more attractive, not just in the physical sense, but in the emotional and mental sense as well. You're no longer giving away pieces of yourself to someone who isn't respecting them. The more you practice this emotional distance, the more you also regain control over your emotions in your life. You stop depending on external validation, and instead, you become your own source of confidence and happiness. You begin to recognize that your happiness isn't dependent on someone's response to you, but on how you respond to your own emotions and needs. And as you create this space, you give him the opportunity to truly reflect on his feelings for you. The absence of contact isn't just a break for you, it's a wake-up call for him. He begins to question where you went, why you stopped reaching out, and whether he might have made a mistake by not valuing you sooner. This space for reflection is crucial because it's the moment when he might finally recognize what he had with you and begin to miss it. By giving him the chance to feel that void, you're not just sitting idly by, you're taking control of your own emotional well-being. You're empowering yourself by choosing to prioritize your own life and happiness, which in turn makes you more attractive, more desirable. And in this space where you stop trying to contact him, you might just discover that what you were chasing was always within you: the confidence, the self-love, and the understanding that your value is not dependent on anyone else's recognition of it. The true power lies in realizing that you are enough just as you are. And when you stop trying to contact him, you open the door for him to recognize that too. When you stop trying to contact him, something profound happens. He is forced to experience the space you've left behind. This gap, this absence of your presence, creates a sense of longing in him, a void that he begins to notice. Sometimes we don't realize how much someone means to us until they're no longer there. And he starts to feel the impact of not having you around. And in that moment, he begins to ask himself why you're no longer reaching out, why you're no longer the one initiating contact. This space isn't about playing games or acting cold. It's about honoring yourself. It's about saying, I deserve more than this. I deserve someone who actively seeks me out, someone who values my presence as much as I value theirs. And when you stop trying, you're not abandoning him, you're shifting the dynamic. You're letting him take responsibility for his actions, for his lack of effort, and for how much he truly values you. It's easy to get caught in the trap of constantly seeking validation through communication. We send texts, make calls, and do everything we can to keep the connection alive. But in doing so, we forget that relationships require balance. They need both parties to invest equally, and when one side is constantly pursuing the other, it creates an unhealthy power dynamic. By stepping back, you're reclaiming that power. You're saying that your worth isn't tied to his responses or his attention. When you stop trying to contact him, something powerful begins to happen, not just within him, but within you. You see, when we're constantly the ones reaching out, making an effort, trying to connect, we often lose sight of our own worth. We might convince ourselves that our value is tied to how much we chase after someone, that the more we try, the more likely they are to appreciate us. It's an exhausting cycle that only leaves us questioning why we're not getting the same effort in return. But when you stop trying to contact him, you send a message to yourself first and foremost. It's a message that says, I deserve more. It's a message that says, I'm not going to give away my energy for something that isn't reciprocated. It's an act of self-love and self-respect. And when you do this, it forces him to take a hard look at what he's been missing. He'll notice the absence, and that absence will speak louder than any words could. The truth is, people often don't realize what they have until it's gone. They don't see the value in the person standing right in front of them because they're too caught up in the moment, distracted by other things. But when you stop trying, when you pull back and give him the space to realize your worth, he may begin to see what he's been taking for granted all along. It allows for reflection and introspection. In that space, he may feel the void, the emptiness that your absence creates. And that feeling can be enough to make him regret not giving you the attention and effort you deserved. When you stop reaching out, you're just waiting for him to come back to realize his mistake. You're taking a stand for yourself, asserting that you will not chase after anyone who doesn't value you the way you deserve. It's about putting your emotional energy into yourself rather than into someone who isn't showing up for you in the way that matters. This period of no contact doesn't mean you're just sitting around hoping for him to reach out. No, it's a time of growth, healing, and rediscovery. It's a time for you to focus on your own well-being, to prioritize your happiness, and to remind yourself that you are worthy of the best. You are not someone's backup option, and you are not here to fill a void in their life. You are here to thrive, to be loved and appreciated for who you truly are. When he finally realizes that you've stopped trying, that you've moved on from the constant pursuit, it will make him reflect on how he treated you. The regret, the longing may begin to set in. And while you can't control what he does next, you've taken control of your own life. You've made the decision to stop chasing someone who didn't value you enough. And in doing that, you've shown not just him, but yourself, that you will not settle for less than what you truly deserve. So remember, by stopping the contact, you're not just making him regret it, you're showing him, and more importantly, yourself, that you are valuable, worthy, and deserving of someone who will put in the same effort you give. You've created space for both him and yourself to reflect. And in that reflection, you may just find that the best thing you can do for both of you is to keep moving forward without looking back.